When it comes to the NBA, in the legendary words of Kevin Garnett, anything is possible. And to be fair, it's true. In the NBA, nothing, and I mean nothing, is truly as it seems. While the league is home to the extraordinary, unbelievable, legendary, and so on and so forth, the truth is that it is also home of some of the more stranger events in sports history. Take, for example, NBA trades. Throughout its many years of operation, we have witnessed some questionable deals take place. You see, NBA trades can sometimes become a complex game of patience that can often spark the craziest deals. In 1983, the Portland Trail Blazers and Indiana Pacers embarked on trade discussions that will result in what many believe is the strangest deal in NBA history. Welcome to NBA Insider. Many NBA fans today may recognize Miami Heat head coach Erik Spoelstra as being largely synonymous with the Big Three era of the franchise, back when Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh were part of the back-to-back championship organization. However, there's a lot of history behind this man that we seldom hear about. Take, for example, did you know he is the first ever Asian American to be the head coach of not only an NBA championship team, but any team in the 4 major sport leagues in North America, including the MLB, NHL, and NFL? To add to this, his loyalty is unheard of. For starters, Erik Spoelstra's career as a head coach has been spent entirely within the Miami Heat organization. From a video coordinator back in 1995 to now a head coach, his dedication to the team is so powerful to the extent that he is even married to a former Miami Heat cheerleader. Despite all of these outstanding feats, what if I was to tell you that it does not end there? For those of you who don't know, Erik Spoelstra is not the only member of his family with ties to sports. In fact, he is just the 3rd generation. His grandfather, Watson Spoelstra, was a sports journalist who worked just under 30 years for the Detroit Tigers from 1945 through 1973. Then there's John Spoelstra, Watson Spoelstra's only son, and you guessed it, the father of Erik Spoelstra. He also happens to be the centerpiece of our story. From a young age, John was exposed to the world of sports by his father. In 1970, 4 years after graduating from Notre Dame, Spoelstra founded his first marketing company known as the New School of Youth Marketing and Other Phenomena. In the mid-1970s, his company obtained the rights to organize Notre Dame basketball games for $2,000 per game. John's NBA career first began in 1977 when the Buffalo Braves, now known as the Los Angeles Clippers, would hire him as the vice president of marketing. As the new VP, one of the biggest tasks he was assigned was to prevent a relocation of the Braves. Despite succeeding for 10 months, the team would eventually be moved to San Diego and be renamed as the San Diego Clippers. In 1979, after brief success with the franchise, Spoelstra's skills would be noticed by Larry Weinberg, the owner of the Portland Trail Blazers at the time. Weinberg would immediately hire Spoelstra as their general manager and senior vice president, easily his best decision as an owner. You see, Spoelstra was already known throughout the sporting realm as a marketing genius. This was the same man who was credited with having pioneered a number of concepts that are now common in the NBA, such as in-house radio, television coverage for individual teams, selling sponsorship for advertisement that will be placed inside NBA arenas, and giving out rewards to fans in attendance if the home team met certain goals, such as scoring 100 points or more in a game. This was a man who could clearly think outside the box. With the addition of Spoelstra, both Larry Weinberg and the Portland Trail Blazers were on their way to scraping in millions of dollars through ticket sales. In fact, during his 10 years as a dedicated front office executive for the Blazers, there wasn't a single game that wasn't sold out.
NBA world champion Portland Trail Blazers. Never in the history of professional sports has a major American city opened its heart as readily to an athletic team as Portland did for its beloved Blazers.
Despite all of his marketing genius, John Spoelstra's magic moment wouldn't come until 1983, just 4 years after joining the Trail Blazers, when his expertise would help the team pull off what many people still consider to this day to be the strangest trade the NBA has ever witnessed. Our story first takes place during the 1982-1983 NBA season. The Portland Trail Blazers were part of a collection of unexceptional teams who seemed to be stuck with no no apparent success. The team was in fact performing so horribly that they had an average of 40 wins per season. Just a few months into the season, and they were already holding a disappointing record of 21-15. To top it off, despite the fact that the team had legends such as Clyde Drexler, Michael Thompson, and point guard positions filled by fellow teammates Darnell Valentine and Fat Lever, their leading scorer was Jim Paxson. As if that wasn't bad enough, following a stroke of injury and bad luck, the Blazers would find themselves in need of someone who could run the offense, playmate, and guard the perimeter. And what was better than a playmaking point guard? Despite their desperate need to obtain a quality lead guard, the Trailblazers couldn't afford to part ways with any of their rotation players. In comes John Spoelstra. The senior vice president and general manager sprang into action and began working his magic. You see, John already had just the player in mind. That player was none other than Don Boozy, a veteran defense-minded ball handler who could score if necessary. He was also a two-time All-Star with 6 All-Defensive Team selections and a championship beneath his belt. At the time, he was playing for the Indiana Pacers, a team that was just 6 seasons old but had already managed to make so many mistakes and was headed towards an ultimate end. In fact, since joining the NBA, the Pacers had only one winning season. They also managed to make some horrible decisions along the way when they traded away Adrian Dantley just 3 months after acquiring him, giving up Alex English and a first-round pick for George McGinnis and trading another first-round pick in the Jordan draft for a guy who was out of the league 2 years later. The Pacers owner at the time, Sam Nasi, knew it was time to cut his losses. This was no surprise considering almost every team in the league, minus the Blazers, was losing money. So by 1983, Sam decided to enter the market in search of a buyer for the team. But who in their right mind would want to purchase a team that was losing money more than it was making and without any star prospect or potential to build around? You guessed it, John Spoelstra. Where everyone saw impossibility, John Spoelstra saw opportunity. John decided to develop a deal in which he would ship himself to the Indiana Pacers for a couple weeks of his marketing expertise in exchange for 32-year-old Don Boozy to come play for the Blazers. Of course, the Pacers would end up taking the deal. This was a one-of-a-kind arrangement that nobody had saw coming. As if that wasn't crazy enough, John still somehow managed to gain an advantage for both teams. Within a week, he had found what everyone had thought was impossible for the Pacers: a buyer. 4 months later, John would end up officially selling the team to Herbert and Melvin Simon, one of which is still an owner to this day. The Trailblazers, on the other hand, would end up receiving the player they desired. Don Boozy would go on to play 41 games for Portland, averaging 4.7 points, 2.2 assists, and 1.1 steals while coming off the bench. The franchise would go on to make the NBA playoffs, but would eventually lose to the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference semifinals in just 5 games. John himself would speak in regards to the trade, saying, "It hadn't been done before and it hasn't been done since. When you take a look at it, I think Portland got the better end of the deal." In 1989, after spending 10 years with the Portland Trailblazers, John Spoelstra would officially resign, but not before implementing clever marketing tactics which contributed to increasing the team's home game attendance from last in the league when he first arrived to one of the best in the NBA. Not only had he managed to acquire a star player in exchange for 1 week of his time as a management consultant, but he somehow did it all without spending a single player, draft pick, or dollar. If that isn't impressive, I don't know what is. I doubt we will ever see anything as mythical as this again. However, in the end, this will still go down as one of the strangest trades in NBA history.